So here's the thing. I always say that I'm a learner. People call me a teacher coach, right? I consider myself a learner. The great coaches, the great teachers are the great learners.
I often think that the voice I have is the voice I have.
That's right.
Right?
See, this is what's so interesting. Most people just take it for granted. They think the voice is, this is my natural voice. And that's why I don't like the word natural, because our voices really are.
Per Bristow is a Swedish voice and performance coach known for helping people improve their singing, speaking, and confidence.
He created the Bristow Voice Method, which is used in over 146 countries.
You're doing something that you've never done before. You're about to do something, and you don't know what's going to happen. That fear or that unknowing, I mean, that's creativity, that's life. That's being able to be in that moment.
In this episode, you're going to hear from a good friend of mine and #1 voice training coach in the world, Per Bristow. It's always fun when I get to interact with Per because we never do it where we live. Yes, I met him at his house in LA. He's flown to my place, in DC. But normally when we meet, it's all around the world, whether it be Lisbon or in the Philippines. I'm always proud to connect with him when we're on the road. This episode, you're going to be able to learn what it takes to be a high performer and not just control your voice, but release it to the world so you can make sure that message gets out there. Per has been a very successful entrepreneur for many years and has been able to empower the voice of some of the top speakers, actors, and leaders all around the globe. If you ever wanted to have the confidence to get on stage and command a room, this is the episode for you. Welcome to the pod. Thank you.
Wow, thank you.
Oh, man, it's been an honor. I think this is the first one I've been able to do halfway around the world.
That's amazing. This is amazing. Wow.
So I got some really interesting stories to tell, but I think where I'd like to start is just talking a little bit about your background. There's some things about this is going to be selfish. I want to learn a little bit more about my friend that I don't know much about, other than in my experiences. It's always interesting, it's always fun, and it's always a little crazy.
Yeah. Well, it is interesting where we come from, isn't it? It's interesting why we do what we do.
So what's your background?
So I'm from Sweden, originally. And I actually grew up playing the violin. That was my thing. Everybody thought I was going to be a violin player. I was considered a child prodigy playing the violin. But the interesting thing that I realized later is that that's really where I started to really dislike the word talent. Because I always heard natural talent, natural talent, natural talent. But I always loved to figure out strategies of how to learn effectively. In that case, get my fingers moving, right? And that's what I've used to this day when I coach voice and coach performance.
So when you say child prodigy, like around what age did you start to notice that you were good at the violin?
Well, I played in a semi-professional symphony orchestra when I was 12.
Oh, wow. Okay, so very young.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, that's not what the world knows you as today.
No.
I knew you as a guy that when I walked into a house and it was like this amazing slick pad in LA, there's just this guy on this grandiose piano and a bunch of famous people there and a good time, and it just happened to be Per's house. And I was a guest at your house, and we had a lot of fun and learned a lot. But the world doesn't know you as a violinist. What does the world know you as?
I guess most people know me as a voice coach.
What is a voice coach?
A voice coach is someone who helps singers and speakers develop their voices. Many times it's fixing voice problems. So high in demand people, singers and speakers, high in demand, it's a tough job. With athletes, you gotta operate at your maximum capacity, and that can be tough. So if singers are on tour, they have big concerts coming up, and suddenly the voice isn't functioning, then I'm often called in to help with that. But I also developed this online training program, so therefore anyone has now been able to learn my method, the method that I developed, and to create freedom in their voice. Why my training is called Sing with Freedom and Speak with Freedom. How do we actually develop this instrument? And a lot of people don't know it's possible.
So when you say it's an instrument, are you talking about actual voice itself?
Yes.
So like learning how to play the violin with your hands and your fingers, isolating your voice box and the muscles of your voice to be able to control it, to be able to do things. I often think that the voice I have is the voice I have.
That's right.
Right?
See, this is what's so interesting. Most people just take it for granted. They think the voice is, this is my natural voice. And that's why I don't like the word natural, because our voice is really our habitual voice. The way we use it is the way we've used it. We've always used it. And most people don't know that it can be developed. But of course, when we run into problems, then we should learn. Same thing with the body, right? But I wanted to be an athlete.
But you were an athlete at one point.
That was my dream. So when I was 12 years old, I had a back injury. See, here's the thing. I was not considered talented as an athlete. I mean, I was decent on the school level, right? But I didn't have the raw speed, the raw strength. And then I had a back injury. And then for some strange reason, this is in Sweden, right? I was ranked top 20 in 6 different track and field events when I was 15, 16.
Sure.
So how does that happen? Because I was still the little guy. So a lot of what I learned through that experience, probably through the back injury, it's not fun when it happens, right? And I don't know if I'm going to run or walk again. But I realized later on that that's probably one of the greatest learning experiences I ever had, to learn about the body, how to get out of pain to start off with, right? But then also the mental stuff. And I'm sure we're going to talk more about that, because both of us are really passionate about the mental aspects of high performance. But how can I then mentally, figure out what's going on in my body, the awareness. The physical awareness is, of course, a mental activity.
Sure.
And then also, when it came to competition, I tended to be at my best when it mattered the most. And this is what I had discovered then through playing the violin. When I was playing a violin recital, for example, when I was like 11 years old, my teacher wisely had recommended me to not have the sheet music in front of me. And I was playing this concerto with a pianist.
Sure.
And most violin players, if it's a long piece like that,
they need to work off of something.
they have something, like as security.
Of course.
And he advised me not to do that. And that was brilliant advice.
So pure memory?
Pure memory. And what's so interesting then is that I had realized when I was practicing at home, if my mind went into the future, I would miss.
What do you mean? Like, what do you mean by your mind going into the future?
It's like, here comes the difficult piece. It's coming up here. What are my fingers going to do? Instead, I have to realize, I have to trust that the fingers will know what to do when I get there.
And music's all about timing. So if your head's somewhere else and your body's not, then there's a problem.
And I'm playing fast. That's what I love to do. I wanted to play fast, which is funny because you love speed. That's all I wanted to do. I probably didn't have much finesse, but I could play really, really fast. So therefore, it was so interesting when I had that recital that I just got lost in the music somehow, and then afterwards I realized I played it flawlessly, and people went nuts.
How was it feeling when people went nuts for you?
Amazing.
Because I think that a lot of times in sport, people don't get the chance to experience the success of winning.
Mm-hmm.
And when you do that, then you'll understand what it means to put in some work. Mm. See, I like to win. And I think there's a lot of people that will say that you learn a lot when you lose, or you learn, that there's always lessons and things. And I truly believe that. Right. But there's something to be said about winning that will unlock opportunities of emotions that you didn't know that you had.
Yes.
And I was thinking about you being 12 years old, playing, and you just having that feeling of the crowd erupting a little bit.
Yeah.
And it probably was very fulfilling.
Very fulfilling. And I think even more fulfilling is that feeling, I nailed it. I think that's even more fulfilling.
When you do something that you know that you're capable of, but you haven't done it yet,
Yeah.
that's the moment that I think all of a sudden, like, you start to truly believe in the things that you're saying that you're going to do and the work that you're putting in. You start to believe the practice actually matters because you practice so much, but you don't always nail a perfect 10. You don't always nail it. And then when you actually do nail it, you're like, it worked.
Yeah.
It landed.
Yeah.
So that feeling, I kind of want to take you back to that a little bit.
Feeling, yeah.
Have you experienced that in your coaching as not being the person on stage? Have you experienced it being able to be in the audience and watch someone else nail it and go, I helped them with that right there?
I would say so, yes. It's not the same thing because it's more of the process, right? So, yeah, I don't think it's the same feeling. I'll tell you, if I back up to that moment, though, what was so amazing about that moment was that I was so freaking nervous beforehand. And this is what people don't understand many times. They think nervousness is bad.
Oh, this is a fun conversation because
at that time, I didn't know what to do with it. Look, we have two hands, right? This is the hand that's moving on the strings. This hand was sweaty beforehand, more sweaty than this one. How is it possible you can be more sweaty? Say it's this vulnerability. It's where what you need. In that case, I'm not singing, so I'm not thinking about my voice. I'm just thinking about my left hand.
Why is it sweating?
Right. It's like, I can't be slipping around on the strings. And I was like, yeah, what am I going to do?
So you go back to that moment, you've reflected on it. I know that you've worked in other environments where you've now explored this feeling of nervousness and this anxious feeling. What is your take on that feeling of being nervous? What do you do with it?
I think it's a beautiful thing.
Why?
I welcome it.
Why is it welcome?
Because it's special. It's not that you go into a job, a mundane job that you don't like. You're doing something that you've never done before. You're about to do something, and you don't know what's going to happen. That fear or that unknowing, I mean, that's creativity. That's life. That's being able to be in that moment. That's what I've learned to love.
Yeah, it's what makes you. It reminds you that you're alive.
Yeah.
You know. So I have a rule in my own life as a coach that the day that I show up to the line, or the day that the gun is about to go off, or that they close the gate, or an athlete gets into the ring, or the whistle is about to be blown, and I don't have that feeling,
Right.
I'm done with that thing.
Yeah.
I won't coach if I'm not nervous.
I will do specific things to make me nervous. And we can call it whatever we want, right? We can call it excitement. We can call it fear. It doesn't matter. We understand that there's something that's special that's going on. It's a one-time opportunity. I did the same show over 300 times in Sweden, where I was a singer, right? And after a while, it was boring. It was like I was going to work that I didn't like. And I mean, I'm a professional at that point, so the audience doesn't know unless they don't have much to compare with because they've probably only seen it once, right? But it was not enjoyable. And I realized that I got to make myself nervous. I got to make sure that I feel that this is a one-time opportunity.
It is one time for the person in the audience.
Exactly.
So, when I coach somebody, I may have 3 sessions a day, 5 sessions a day, and that 1 hour or 30 minutes, that might be all that executive has to work with me, or that high performer has to work with me, because everything else in their life is super stressful. Right. That is, yes, it's practice. Yes, there's a point of them getting better. Yes. But it's also their outlet. It's their trusted space to where they're going to go there and everything's about them. Yes. So if I'm not at my best game because I'm 3 sessions in and my last 2 sessions were pretty much exhausting, or I'm 5 sessions in or 8 sessions in at the end of the day and I'm tired and I don't bring my best, then that person's experience is off.
That's right.
So what did you do?
So that's one
to create this experience that made me feel like I got to bring my A game every time.
Yeah. So one thing is exactly that. Here you have an audience. They might have traveled from far away. That's a big thing that maybe the whole family.
Sacrifices, commitment, cost.
That's right.
Excitement, things that they're looking forward to, expectations.
So that's number one, to respect that. And And then it is that even though everything is rehearsed, we know what to say, what to sing, where to go on stage and all that stuff, right? But that's not where the performance is. It's what happens within that. That's the life of it. And that is new every time, every moment. So if we go on repeat, you can't do that. It's like athletic performance. You can't repeat what you did before. It doesn't work, even though the script is the same.
I often find that I tend to be a little internally frustrated with my second and third repeated performances. Yeah. Because if I'm giving a presentation and I have nailed down my topic, the actual mechanics of speaking or presenting or the kind of art of working a room, I got that dialed in. So I have those skills, but when I build my presentation deck and then I prep it and then I nail it, it's difficult for me to kind of like, all right, I need to roll that again. And then I knew that again. So the second talk and the third talk and the fourth talk, I don't know if they get better every time. Mm-hmm. They tend to me like I nailed it. And that after I nailed it, it's definitely like I think it drops off a bit.
Yeah.
I think it's really difficult to repeat performances at a high level.
It's a big trap to try and repeat it. But there's a trap we fall into. It's like, okay, I've done that. I know what to do. I do it again. But I think the beauty of creativity, the beauty of being alive and having that spontaneity on stage or in any situation is that the blank page. And that's why a lot of people fear the unknown, but that's what creative people do. We do something that we've never done before.
So are you trying to create a repeatable thing, or are you
I'm open to it.
But do you just think to yourself like, I'm not going to repeat it. I'm just going to perform.
Right. So that's why I think vulnerability is one of the greatest assets for a performer. To be able to be vulnerable and to be open to what might happen. And that's what creates the spontaneity. Because for an actor, for example, you don't want to say the line as as you planned it. It's dependent on what happens. That's what's created live in the line. Some of the best moments in
actual cinema are ad-libbed.
And it's all, yes, and even if it's not, you still want it to be as if you said it for the very first time.
People can feel that. They tend to realize the authenticity between the message of like, man, that hit home.
Right.
And normally the ones that hit home is the ones that they say are, man, you're an incredible actor. That scene was so amazing. Like you laid that out perfectly. And they're like, and then you hear like the story is like, well, let me tell you what really happened. Yeah. This one day, here's what happened. He did this. And then we kept it on film. And then they rolled it in.
And therefore every line comes out of the spontaneous moment of what happens if we do a scene and you have a partner in the scene. Then it's that life. It triggers something, and therefore I felt the need to say that. It's not because it was rehearsed. And that's what we want the audience to feel, that it's like, wow, something brand new happening.
Yeah, it's hard to repeat emotions because you know it's happening. I'm going to predict this emotion, I got to repeat that emotion. And when I'm trying to evoke it, if I know that it's happening during this window, sometimes the audience doesn't always... Usually this is I learned this in coaching high-level athletes, is that the athlete doesn't always give me the same version every day. So I have to kind of get him to that point. So if the shoulder doesn't feel good today, well, I don't walk into practice or into the game with a bad shoulder and it's going to affect my performance. I go, what do I have to do to get my shoulder to where it's ready? Yeah. And it may take 2 minutes, it may take 10 minutes, but whatever it is, I have to do something to get it ready to perform. Yes. I don't accept that. And it's not going to be the same. Some days I'm, a good example, if I'm in a cold environment, I don't want to be wearing just a t-shirt. I want to have warm-ups on. I want to be zipped up. And then as I start my warm-up, I'm taking a layer off.
Yeah.
Because, my warm-up takes me 15 minutes. Well, not in a cold environment, it doesn't. It may take you 45. But you don't want to be in a cold environment for 45 minutes. So you may need to do something, in the constraints of what you have. You may need to be in a hallway in a building, moving around. You may be in a small box moving around, and then you start taking it out. And it's not your normal routine.
Right.
What you're looking for, though, is what do I need to be ready to perform at my best? Yes. So whatever needs to happen before that, we just give you all the tools give you best practices. But as a professional and an expert at a high level, their job is to be able to say, I know I need my body to be here when the gun goes off. And it may take 15 minutes or 2 hours. Some of those warm-ups start the minute that somebody gets up. And we need to regulate that because the situations in every environment are completely different. Traveling all the way around the world, you don't get the same food, you don't get the same environment, everything is different. Logistics are different. Moving from like one hotel to a stadium, every place is slightly different. So we almost be like, what do we need to do to get ready? Like, where do we need to be? And then professionals know how to kind of be very modular with the work that needs to happen to make this body and mind ready.
Yeah.
Do you see the same thing in your performances?
I do, absolutely. So we talked about acting, right? Because if you try to repeat an emotion, that's what we call fake acting. That's bad acting. So truthful acting is when it happens truthfully in the moment. But it applies to everything. That's how I feel it. And the singer, same thing. And the speaker, same thing, right? It's that life that makes it exciting, not only for the audience, but for us. So if I coach someone, same thing for you, right? If I'm just saying the same stuff that I've always said or say the same thing that might be wise that I said to someone else, that's not where it's at. It's that moment, what's happening right here. And if I can help bring that out, depending on what's going on, so therefore I've obviously developed a deep level of understanding of psychology here, so that therefore we can really understand what's going on with this human being if I'm coaching someone, right? And therefore, how can I bring out excellence, especially then high performance, if they have something really, really big that's about to happen? How can I help this one or prepare this person then to find that life, to come alive?
Yeah, I don't think that, I think that that's what makes it exciting.
Yeah.
Is that the things are going to happen, right? Things are going to happen, right?
Hey, buddy, what do you think about being spontaneous? Ooh, that felt good.
Look at that face, right? Look how excited he is.
Yes.
So
yeah.
You often get called at this part of your career, or even years ago, you reach a certain levels when no one could fix it, they reach out. Or when things go wrong, that's when Per gets a call.
Unfortunately, it is kind of unfortunate that, I mean, we're all like that, I suppose. We wait till the last minute and then we're desperate with them. We realize we need help.
No, they just don't value the thing that they knew about a while ago because they thought they had everything under control. Yeah. And then when things do go wrong and the people that probably put them in that position couldn't fix it, they then have in the back of their mind going, some guy a while ago said something to me that landed. Yeah. And that made sense. And internally, I think athletes have a really good ability to understand themselves. Yeah. There's different, I would say there's levels of things, right? There's self-awareness, situational awareness, right? And I think that's really important. Sure. But athletes tend to have a really good level of self-awareness, even if they don't express it well. Mm-hmm. And I think when they hear something that lands with them, they don't always make a decision on it right away because decision-making is hard. Yeah. So they hold it for a while. Yes. And then when things go wrong, that's when they do it. And they normally tend to do one of two things. They'll shut off, be completely quiet about it, and then it gets right to the last minute, then they'll do it. Or when something goes wrong, they'll be like, all right, I got to pull the trigger and call them. Yeah. And that happens in your world. And it is unfortunate because if I was there, it wouldn't have happened to begin with.
Well, I mean, I prefer, of course, to prepare and so that I'm not needed. That's really always my goal. For example, I've had clients who wanted me to be with them in recording sessions. And I don't want to be in that situation. I don't want them to feel that they need
you.
me, right?
One of my number one goals, too, as a coach.
Exactly. I do the preparation, both physically and mentally, so that therefore, when they're under pressure, perhaps, they know what to do. They don't need to call me.
I mean, that is the job of a coach. Yeah. I have athletes that have worked with me for 10 years, and they don't get hurt. They get these little niggles, and things happen, and we start to see it, and then we start to adjust it. Or they know how to, manage their body based upon, something that's hindering them, and then they have a way to work around an injury, not through it, and then it never breaks.
Yeah.
And because it doesn't break, they tend to not understand or appreciate, what like all of the work that's gone into the adjusting a specific program to what they need, because I'm thinking about, yes, today, but I'm also thinking three years down the line.
Yeah.
I'm thinking 3 months down the line.
Yeah.
And they don't always see that. So it becomes the times that they do appreciate it is when they go away and I say to them, like, hey, listen, like, I'm watching you a little bit and I'm a little bit worried about what you're about to do here. Like, I'm like, hey, listen, is your knee bothering you? No, it's fine. I was like, you sure? Like, it looks like we're running into some issues. Yeah. No, everything's fine. And then 6 weeks later, they can't move their leg.
Uh-oh.
And then you start to have that conversation. And the worst thing you could do to any elite performer, professional, say, I told you so.
No, of course.
I told you so. Because that doesn't do anything. Although it feels good for a short minute. It does. Like, hey, I told you. But what you do, when they brought it up and they say, hey, you're like, all right, cool. And then you resolve the issue. I wouldn't want to call it fixing, but you resolve the issue. They then tend to appreciate the work more.
Yeah.
So sometimes it takes tough situations to appreciate what someone is capable of.
Yes.
And you get called into these scenarios when things go wrong. One that you're been well recognized publicly is when someone's representing his entire country, he's worked his entire life to, and he's got to speak to, he's got to show his work to 200 million people.
Yeah, sing in this case, yeah.
And
Yes.
and he couldn't do that. And he knew he couldn't do it. It wasn't a matter of like, I couldn't do it. It was, he knew something, like the engine wasn't working. And tell us about that experience so that we could at least understand like what happened, and then what do we do, what could we take away from those experiences of when things go wrong in our own lives too?
Yeah.
Not just in your voice.
I don't want to talk so much about him personally then, because he has talked publicly, so that's why I can talk about it. But what is interesting is, of course, then that everything goes hand in hand. So fixing something physically, what's happened, obviously there's so much fear, right? So much stress if you're going to do something that's really difficult and you don't feel that you're ready for it. We can understand that. That's what we call a crisis situation. So therefore, to be able then to help that person find their inner stuff, right? And to release the restrictions, the resistance, the fears, and all that, so that therefore the body can heal faster, and so the body can do what it needs to do, but also at the same time that we're preparing for the big moment. And it's of course extremely rewarding that the body has this capacity to go from not functioning to performing at high levels. The beauty now these days is that since I've created this video training, a lot of people have never seen me in person. So I've had people who had, and this is also the people who have come forward publicly, right? So had surgery, had tried to get help from a lot of people, and then later on thanks me for having been part of that healing process.
That's pretty cool.
That is amazing. And he told me that then a couple of years later about this, and I'm like, wow. And I've never met him. And I get so many stories. And it's not just about these, what we call high performers that need to perform at high levels. Think about all these people who are restricted because they've had traumatic experiences from childhood.
Sure.
In my case then, or when it comes to the voice, so many people, and I'm saying many people, have been shut down. A child should be seen and not heard. Yeah. You sound like crap, be quiet. Mm-hmm. Yeah. You're not allowed to express, and certainly not sing because you don't sound good. And people don't realize how much trauma that actually creates, because many people start joking about, I can't sing, I can't do this, I can't do. But they actually have deep-rooted trauma.
Yeah, that's why most people laugh off their biggest insecurities.
Yeah. So to be able to help them also come alive, and I have so many success stories when it comes to that. That's just beautiful.
Yeah, well, it's transformational. And what it does is it gives people true freedom of themselves, right? It's not necessarily financial freedom or physical freedom, but it's freedom for themselves to express it what they want to do. And that openness, that opportunity to live a certain way, to do things that you want, and to be able to play within a world that's very interesting and things like you do every day that are crazy, is because you have that kind of mental freedom to know that this is exciting.
And that's why it's so powerful to understand, that we do not know what we're capable of. To embrace that. I don't know what I'm capable of. That's the not knowing again that we talked about, right? That actually creates a sense of freedom. I don't know what's possible. That's amazing. And therefore, I have you as a coach to help me draw that out. But your athletes don't know either what they're capable of.
No, and I think that as a coach, like I want to,
fantastic.
I want to leave no stones left unturned. I want to be in a situation where, if you have the opportunity to work with me, and I am blessed to be able to have your trust to work with you, let's find this human limit together, because we don't know is your lid here or is your lid here? You know, where's the break point? You talked about doing, hundreds of shows, and at some point it got boring. When did it get boring? Was it, the first show? Was it the 7th show, or was it the 250th?
Way too soon, in my case.
It was.
Yeah, it was maybe after 40 shows or something like that.
I mean, you're like, you still have, 8 times more work to do.
That's right. And then you start thinking, oh my goodness, what am I doing? And then I realized, what am I doing? What is this? I gotta do something about this. And then every show became fun. It became fun. I felt so much better after the show and so much better before. I was excited. Okay, now let's see what happens today. It's a new show. Woohoo, right? That makes it exciting. New people, new show. I don't know what's going to happen. Sure, I trust that I know what I'm supposed to do, right? But then what's the life that's going to happen? What am I going to see in this person, that person? What am I going to see in the audience? When I am in that, then I'm in the present moment, right? I'm really engaged, fully engaged. Then I walk off the stage and feel like, whoa, this was fun.
Yeah, and part of that is like living in that moment. I think to be able to give the gift of people that live in the moment, if they have something holding them back, in this case that we were referring to, the person that wasn't able to speak, and then he crushed it on, publicly around the world, which is amazing. That's mindset unlocking. You talked about the body's ability to heal itself is unbelievable.
Yes.
There's 2 things that I think that is important for people to kind of really grab, is this idea that the body has the capability of healing itself, and you don't know necessarily what it's capable of.
Right.
And then the other aspect of it is there's still high degree of specialty of knowing what to do. Knowing all these little things that are not just like exercises for the sake of exercises,
right?
But actually a very specific process that you could take people through. And then the exercises and the tools are just a matter of like what works for them and what gets you the outcome that you want. I think all too often people are looking for the quick fixes. So they're like, just give me the drill. Give me the one drill. Like, what's going to make me, I just need to fix this. And
that's a big problem. It's a big problem.
I have no problem saying it, but I'm talking and you could hear the raspy voice in the car today, and you're like, let's fix that voice. And I immediately snapped. And I was like, tell me what to do. And I just follow directions. I immediately go from coach to athlete right away. I go from teacher to student right away. And when you have the ability to kind of flip roles, I think it's one of the greatest gifts, because you go from a level of confidence of knowing things and knowing what to do to living in a world where you don't know what to do. And then you just like, hey, take it away, coach. And then I give you that space. You jump in there and I'm like, shit, that kind of worked.
It worked.
Oh, it did.
So here's the thing. I always say that I'm a learner. People call me a teacher coach, right? I consider myself a learner. The great coaches, the great teachers are the great learners. And that's what I fell in love with as a violin player. I wanted to learn. Just throwing this label of talent, why not ask the talented person what is actually doing? What is actually doing to excel? Why am I excelling faster than my friends who have the same teacher, the same homework? So what am I doing? Not just what exercise is, what's going on inside of here, while I'm doing it. That's where it's at. This is what I wanted to figure out. And same thing with sports then. How can I get into this flow state? How can I actually perform at high levels? How can I learn techniques in my mind, right? How can I develop my hurdling in my mind?
Yeah.
Right? And then becoming a singer is part of that is also because of my fear. I would never stand up in the front of a classroom. I felt very uncomfortable.
When? You mean you're scared to step on stage?
High school? Oh, yeah. Yeah, especially when it came to girls.
And this is what you do now?
Darn it. I was so scared when it came to girls.
That good-looking hair and face and smile, and I'm stuck with this, and you're worried about girls on stage?
Yeah.
Jeez.
And I thought I was the only one, but I think maybe guys more, because we're supposed to take the initiative, right? And the fear of rejection is enormous.
You don't just have you just don't stand there and women just jump on you like an Axe commercial?
When I was in high school, are you kidding me?
Hasn't happened to me yet. I'm still waiting for that to happen.
No.
I want to...
No, but this is serious, because I was so me and my buddies thought it would be a cool thing. If we start a rock band, maybe we'll get some attraction there. Oh. But it's actually an important thing. It sounds like juvenile stuff, right?
Quite fitting, though, for Sweden to have a rock band, because it seems like a part of the culture. We
all had to be in a rock band. That's how it was. No, but this is actually an important thing, because we all want to be loved. We all want to fit in. We all want to be recognized somehow, right? So it seems, later on it becomes something bigger, right? But it is a driver after all, and it is a fear for us all, right? To not be good enough and not fit in and not be loved, all that kind of stuff.
As you develop these skills, you start to develop this kind of just general awareness as you're getting pretty good. When you were going from, whether it be hurdling or violinist, you have a kind of mental model that is around isolation, this ability to develop skill acquisition really, really well, not just enough to feel competent, but enough to have the ability to know what to do when things go wrong, or to know what to do to be warmed up to a full point, or to be able to express yourself the right way.
Yes.
But it comes down to you having mastered isolation. Did that start at the violin level?
Started at the violin level. That's right.
Where was the muscle isolation to develop a level of skill that goes well beyond what most people would consider, competent? Yeah.
So I wanted to play fast, right? So I realized that if I'm going to move fingers fast, I can't have tension here.
Oh.
So when I played really fast, people were saying, "Wow, I can't see you moving your fingers." So it really is the law of least effort, right? The less I move, a beginner will move like this and cramp here and everywhere. There'll be so much movement. So I learned to isolate. So I was doing like drills. How can I move two fingers and keep those relaxed? How can I move these two fingers and not lift the other finger off the string? It's just almost touching the string. So very, very tiny movements. And I had so much fun playing around with that. That was not anything I got from my teacher really, although my teacher was super inspiring in that sense. He gave me difficult stuff so that I felt challenged, right? But this kind of stuff, that's muscle isolation. That's finer motor skills, right? But that goes so much deeper than just mechanics, because it's so much about the mind. So I could learn playing violin pieces in my mind then, but I cannot do that unless I can feel my muscles. It's not just imagination. No, I'm sending the signals to my fingers, so therefore it becomes muscle memory without me having played it. And that's what I learned then, that I have to trust that that's going to happen under pressure.
Yeah.
And then that transfer, then I play the bass, and then with the voice, because we can't see these muscles. So then how can we feel them? And most singers have never realized that. They just sing. They sing scales. They're using their ears as a measurement if they're doing it right or wrong. So
we don't always really know what we sound like either, because our own internal calibration's different.
But that trains singers to become, first of all, they become very judgmental, and they're using their ears, right? Oh, am I flat? Am I sharp? Am I hitting the note? Do I sound good? And then they try to do something physically to adjust the sound, and that's often what they're taught. Open your mouth more, use breath support, all these kind of things. But what does that do really? So my method, what it's become known for, is I reverse that, And I launched it online in 2008, so I've been around
You've been in it for a minute.
for a minute. Yeah. But the method was already sort of becoming known there in Los Angeles. Maybe we didn't talk about that, but I moved to Los Angeles from Sweden, right? So therefore, I'm the person who developed that method where we actually, let's turn off our ears, which means let's turn off our judgment of what you think it sounds like. Let's not listen. Let's not sing scales. Let's not listen if it sounds good or not. So therefore, we can feel things on a different level.
And you can actually be aware of what we feel.
Even the great professionals, right, have never experienced that, and that's what they said. I'm not making this up. This is what the feedback I'm getting, right, is that they've never felt their vocal cords and the muscles that are operating.
And have going like,
and they've never realized the tension that they've been holding.
But like,
on
have
to
gone
for
through it and
decades.
not being a voice professional. Like, I don't sing for a living, and I don't necessarily have the talent or the drive to want to sing or even feel like I'm motivated enough to get there. But I do need my voice to show up a certain way for clarity, for me to get my message across.
And everybody does.
And I think the more clear that you are when you present, you're being kind. You know, this ability to like articulate a thought makes people start to realize like, oh, you're smart or you're not. And that has nothing to do with it. It has to do with like, do you have the skill to articulate your thoughts? And that itself is like another mechanism. Yes. And me going through it, I have probably could tell you I've never felt those muscles before because I never thought about those muscles before.
You just feel them when you're in pain.
When I had a sore throat or I have lost my voice, you know, or it's camp and I'm like, let's go, get your shit together. And we're yelling at us. And then right afterwards, I'm just like, oh shit.
Right. And at that time, everything is so compressed, everything is so cramped, so what are you feeling? It's a mix of everything, right? It's like when you're in pain, your leg is in pain, you can't really isolate where exactly that pain is if you're hurting all over the place. So
yeah, I didn't even know some of these muscles existed until either they're in pain or you take a step back and you start to isolate them. So I think this ability to develop a thought around isolation and skill acquisition are two incredible traits that you have, and your ability to teach that is really, really valuable to
And then I've transferred that then to the isolation, if we want to call that a mental activity.
Oh.
So how can we affect our focus? And this was a wonderful experience. I ran the hurdles, and this guy was trying to psych me out before the race.
We do that a little bit.
I knew I was going to beat him. So the race is on, and I was so determined I was going to crush him, right? So it's 10 hurdles, right? After the 9th hurdle, I take a peek, and through my mind goes, yep, I'm winning. And then I fall in the 10th hurdle.
Oof.
That was...
Distraction.
What a great learning experience. Even though it was a positive thought, I still lost the focus. Isn't that interesting?
Oh, yeah.
Many times it's because of negative thoughts, right?
Sure.
But here it was a positive thought. Wow, even that is not helpful in that moment. No.
The idea of focus is the only way that you can create a clear understanding of feeling. So part of what you're trying to do regarding kind of the body and developing this skill is isolation. You have to be able to feel specifically what it is.
Yes.
If you're not focused on where you're going, your body's going to go wherever you're focused.
And we're talking fraction of seconds here, right?
Of course.
Same thing. Let's say a singer, for example. Here comes the high note that they've had difficulty before. Right there, it's going to be a slight hesitation, anticipation, and that's not going to make it easier. So we have to plan, so I do certain things then to train that, so therefore that high note that they have difficulty with becomes irrelevant. Instead of thinking, oh, now I'm going to do this when I get, no, see, that's not how it works, right? Then, so we do things so that becomes completely irrelevant because it actually is irrelevant. The reason they've been struggling on a certain high note or where it's difficult is because of something else. So that's sort of the trickery, right? We do to trick the mind. But then it's so interesting in other things, how we can adjust, how we can fix our brain waves.
Yeah, I think it's fascinating. I think what's also interesting is you talked about this thing of fear, right? And I'm a big believer of fear management in a lot of ways. I really am. It's really helped my career, and I kind of I've approached that in a very different way than most people over the years. But when was the first time that you truly were made aware that you were afraid? You told a story about that, with your boys, and I think that that's actually pretty fascinating to talk about. Yeah, you were afraid.
Yeah. So the example when I play the violin, that's when it quickly transformed into peak performance. Mm-hmm. So that was. But what's my first memory of fear? I don't know.
Your boys are walking across the street.
Oh, with the boys, you mean? You want me to tell that story?
Yeah, I think so, because I really want, as a parent, and you're, we always talk about what's the most important part of life. I think it's the gift of working with others, and others, and making impact in the world. And Thomas is 7 now.
Yes.
And I could picture me in that environment, and I know exactly what you were feeling.
Yeah.
So I'm listening to that kid in my head thinking, oh my God, if that was me, I know exactly what would be going on. And I think that's an important thing to talk about. Okay. How you identify.
Do you want me to tell the story?
Yeah, I would love that.
Okay, yeah, because you heard me on stage, when I said it on stage, where I made it a little more animated.
I don't think you need the animation.
I acted it out, but basically is this, right? They were 7 and 4 years old, and we had been at the swim lesson, and in order to get to our car, we have to pass this alleyway where cars usually come, but it's very bad visibility, so it's kind of dangerous. So I told them that we have to stop, hold hands, make sure that no car is coming, and then we walk across together, holding hands.
Sure.
So then we're about to approach this alleyway, and suddenly my 4-year-old just runs across the street, and I'm going nuts. So I follow him, and luckily no car is coming, and I start scolding him then that you can't do that, and I'm being pretty loud about it. We have to hold hands and so forth, and being very angry about it.
Sure.
And then my oldest son, he says, "Dad, why are you yelling?" And then I turn to him and I say, "Well, you tell me why I'm yelling." And he says, "Because you're afraid, Dad." Now he knew this, but it's so powerful, wow, he's got it, right? He understands that fear is really the underlying emotion of that kind of aggression and anger and so forth. And of course, we had talked about it before, so he understood this. But I think that's such a valuable lesson. And for boys, we're often, brought up, or a society that fear is something that's weak, and we can't show. That is, we're tough if we show aggression, right?
Sure.
But of course, that's just to cover up our fear. So I'm such a big believer and proponent of embracing our fears, which we can't do unless we're aware of them.
Sure.
So if we stop saying that I'm angry, all this violence and stuff like that, or we stop blaming other people, or we run away, we don't take responsibility, that's all the response to fear.
Mm-hmm.
So if we can be aware of that ourselves, it really empowers us. To me, when I can say, hey, I'm afraid, that doesn't mean I'm going to perform at lower. That doesn't mean I'm going to run away, or that means strength to me.
Yeah.
That gives me confidence, because now I know I can do something about it. There's nothing wrong for me to admit if I'm afraid something. And then there's all kind of levels of fear, like you mentioned decisions before. Making a decision is, okay, am I making the right decision, right? It's not life or death, perhaps, but every single day there's something. We make choices somehow. So as far as teaching our kids, I think that is powerful stuff.
Yeah. And I think it's a powerful message to everybody, that when they feel fear, that it's normal to be afraid. Yeah. But the way that you position it, not being necessarily a negative thing, but an opportunity for growth.
Yes.
And an opportunity to explore life.
And if we're angry once in a while, there's nothing wrong with emotions. It's just that we don't want to be stuck in an emotion and deny why we're having the emotion.
Yeah, and not being, not having emotion seems to be a very boring life.
Yeah.
Not experiencing things seems to be pretty boring.
Every athlete gets pissed off and moments, right, when things aren't going well. That's fine. The key is then, of course, to let it go and move on, right?
Yeah, it helps us appreciate when things go well.
Yes. And anger can be a wonderful trigger also. It can be a trigger to do something about it. A story that I haven't told much is when we talk about the awareness of voice and stuff like that, that once upon a time I lost my voice.
No.
It's a too long story to talk about now, but basically the doctor said you can't do anything about it. And then they gave me a lot of drugs that made it worse, and I lost 30 pounds, and it was a complete mess. I was so freaking angry. But I realized that I'm not going to heal if I stay angry. So I have to do something else. And but it triggered me that if they say it can't be done, that has always triggered me. That has always triggered me. That pisses me off.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite moments is when people can't do it. It's actually where I get paid the most.
When they say it's not possible, right? It's impossible. And me and my kids, we joke about that. Oh, don't tell Dad it's impossible. And then I say, yeah, that's impossible. And then they hit the shot, the three-pointer, whatever it is that they're doing, right?
I like in the world of sports when every doctor, therapist, or coach has been in the room and they're like, all right, you're done. I was like, give me 3 days. Yeah. I'll tell you what, you give me 3 days, you're here Friday, right? On Monday, you know what, if it's not better, then go in for the surgery and probably end your career. Mm-hmm. Or what is the next, postponing this for 3 days to give me a shot at it, what's the worst that could happen? Yeah. You're not going to go in surgery, in 3 days. So, let's just see what happens. Yeah. And maybe we'll give it a shot. Who knows? Yeah. Yeah. And then at the end of those 3 days, I got a lifelong friend, a client, and I get to enjoy those experiences with them. And I get to be appreciated through the way that the value exchange is, because he understands that when things got tough and nobody else had a solution, you found a way. Mm-hmm. And, I have three principles that I want to pass on through Thomas. And it's like a really big deal. It's like as a dad, you start to come up with these things of like, what do you want to be known for? What do you want him to actually take? And number one is no matter what, don't panic. Mm-hmm. Because when you panic, you immediately create two problems.
That's right.
It's the same concept of what I deal with athletes in the combine or environments or mentorship. It's like, you lie to me. Now I have the problem that I thought was there, but then we have this other problem too now. And now we have two problems to deal with. Yeah. So when you panic, you create two problems. Yeah. And when you have to do that, then it makes things harder. Yeah. And so number one is don't panic. Yeah. Number two is there's always a way. Mm. And you need to know that first. Because if you feel like you're stuck and you feel like there's no way out, then what's the point at that point? Mm-hmm. You're done. And then number three is just move. Mm-hmm. Because when you stay in the same place, very few things positive happen. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. If you feel in life that you're going to get you're constantly getting hit by things, mm-hmm. People are throwing rocks at you, mm-hmm. You feel like you're a target constantly. And I hear people say this. And I say, of course you're a target. Matter of fact, you're an easy target. You haven't moved. You've been in the same place physically, mentally, and emotionally for so long. Yeah. It's so easy for you to be a target. Yeah. Why are they going to try to hit the bird that's flying around doing all these crazy things? Yeah. Because that's a harder shot. So when the world is coming at you, it's choosing you because you're the easiest deer that's not moving. Yeah. You're basically saying, not only am I right here, here's a target.
Yeah. Yeah.
So not moving gives you this biggest target, and you're giving the world that target to hit you. Because the things that hit you are not positive, they're negative. Yeah. So move. Right. And these are the things that I want to, pass on, because I believe that, if you don't panic and you know that there's a way, you believe inside there's a way, and you move, you get started, even if it's one small step, because if you take the step and then you fall, well, you're falling forward.
That's right. Yeah.
If you're going to sit there and not move and you get hit, you're going to fall backwards. Yeah. And I would much prefer for that failing to be failing forward. Yes. So I'm a big believer of this. This is kind of like my life mission as a dad. If I do those things, then we're kind of checking some boxes, right? And I think that you've done a lot of this in your work, probably in the biggest work. You've helped thousands of people online have freedom in their voice and also in their business. And I commend you for this because you've been an incredible online marketer, an incredible businessman after you've developed an amazing skill. So you didn't start this whole marketing thing before you actually had this incredible message to the world. And you took what you were doing in LA in front of this grandiose piano that I love so much. I love that. It's the first question I asked you. Did you notice? I was like, hey, you sold your house. What did you do with the art? And what did you do with the piano? Right. I love that thing. But it's so true. It's like you did this for such a long time at a high level. And then you said, I need to take this to the world because your best talent is not in your backyard. They're all over the world and you wanted to unleash that. So you were able to you became accessible to people that were not in LA.
Right.
And I think that's so powerful for people to know that your options are not limited to the proximity in which they are in. That's and you've done that for people, so I want to commend you.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much. And this was my thinking, right? So I'm so happy when I drive home from the studio that people have said that, wow, I haven't experienced this before. At the same time, I get a little annoyed, right? And by the way, when I said this I get pissed off, right? Just so that we're clear here, I'm not contradicting what I said before. It's still fear that's underlying. What am I afraid of? I'm afraid that they might be right. And that triggers me that they're not going to be right. So that's why fear is such a great thing, because it can trigger us. But a lot of people do not think like that. They have not been trained or they're not rebellious like that.
Yeah.
And they actually then start believing themselves that it's not possible. And these are all the limiting beliefs. That's why I'm such a big fan of embracing this thing that we don't know. We don't know what's possible. So when I developed this method then, I was thinking, how can I help someone? How can they get similar results, maybe even same results, without having to see me in person? What do I need to produce then? How can I lead them through the process of self-discovery? Because I can't. And some people ask me, well, how am I going to be able to learn when you can't check on me? Yeah, but see, that's not where the gold is. The gold is when you discover, when you make that discovery. So that's why I developed, and I had to develop the process so they make the discovery, so they go through it. It's not intellectual learning. Yeah. They have to do things and they feel things and it's, okay, now I get it. Oh, wow, I realize I've been holding on to muscles I didn't even know I had. Now, wow, my sound becomes more released now. Wow, suddenly I can sing higher notes. And this go for speakers too. Wow, I can project with little effort. I had to work so hard to project before. All these kind of things. And then that ties in, that's the physical stuff first, right? Mm-hmm. That ties in, then we realize, wow, I've been holding back because of fears. Because I don't feel I'm good enough. My voice isn't supposed to, I've always been soft-spoken, or I've always been forceful with my voice, or I never thought I could sing high notes. I don't think I sound good enough. I'm afraid I'm going to be off key, and all these kind of things. So therefore, that self-discovery is also about the self-discovery of your own psychology that's been holding you back. And that's what they discover. That's really the magical thing, and that goes hand in hand, right? And then it's like, wow. And we feel better.
And I think it's wild. I feel better that I could actually expand my network globally, because you're not limited to just the proximity. Right. But proximity is power. And I think where the work is it's the power of practice. Mm-hmm. Because you learn this, and I got better within this hour session that I'm doing with my voice coach, and you've changed the way I thought about it. You changed the way I approach it, and I become so much better. I feel good. I come back to my next session a week later, because I'm so lucky to be right down the street from you, and not much progress is being made. Well, because the last time I worked on this was when we were here learning about it. And the work is done not when you're actually in the session.
Exactly. This is what I'm so glad you bring this up. This is what I talk about all the time. So back to my violin play. My teacher has 30 minutes with me. What's he going to do in 30 minutes? That's not where it's happening. I'm appreciative that he gives me the material to work on and gives me some suggestions, whatever he can do in 30 minutes, and inspire me to practice. It's what I do that makes the difference. I remember this client at an early stage when I started coaching who wanted lessons 5 days a week. And I'm like...
Those are great clients, by the way. If you get a chance to work with them, they pay really, really well.
Yeah, but I realized quickly that she just wanted me as a crush. She's not going to do the work.
It creates a dependency.
She's not going to learn.
Yeah, it creates a dependency. Absolutely.
Yeah. So, and I want results just like they want. Mm-hmm. So, no.
It's also a growth part of like your business, where it's like when you're younger, you may not have had the ability to figure out exactly what someone needed if they weren't with you. And like I need sometimes to see an athlete to be able to give them what they need. But then now as I expand in my coaching career, you start to see models that make sense. And then when you get better as a coach, you almost unlock your ability to coach them to where they could then coach themselves and they become less reliant. Yeah. They don't need you as a crutch, and they're right. Dependent. So I'm excited about that. I was able to, I'm really, have a lot of pride in calling you to come out here because, you had an opportunity to come and present to our company here in the Philippines with our office. And it's just unbelievable. Like we're a global marketing company. We have offices in Australia, here in the Philippines, and in America. And like our idea of kind of like this AAA framework, right? America, Asia, and Australia is kind of like the same way that we approach business with like attention, attraction, accessibility. So like we have these models that make sense.
Yes.
I talked about it that, in the earlier part, like my thing of what I was meant to do with Thomas is like give him, kind of his rules for life, so to speak. And if he could do those three things, right? If he could not panic, if he could, know that there's a way and then move, then he'll actually, be okay. Yeah. And I was like, I had a chance to work with your son. You trusted me with that opportunity. Leo just pitched a game today, which is crazy, right? He
did pretty well.
Shoot, 6 innings, zero scores. That's a 11
strikeouts.
Yeah, finish the inning with the 1, 2, 3, get out of here. So that's a good day. That's a good day. And it was like, all right, I don't know if this podcast is going to go well if Leo shits the bed. I was about to say, hey Leo, listen, I'm gonna be pissed. Your dad's gonna be pissed. This better work out well. And I remember like I saw the stats. You showed me stuff. He makes a post, and I'm like, it's gonna be a good podcast. It's gonna be great. Yeah, let's go, Leo. You took it. But I had the fortunate trust that you had given me to work with him, and I take that with a lot of pride, but also a lot of responsibility.
Well, that was amazing.
So I want to say thank you for many, many years to be able to be a part of his life and see his journey still to this day, which is exciting. I've met you from, interactions with Ari, and you got Joe Polish in the room, and Dean Jackson in the room, and Jim Quick in the room, and Dave Brackman in the room, and Steve Sims in the room, and you're just like, that's all at Per's house, right? And it's like such a cool experience, and here I am, and we don't ever get together.
But you had never seen me on stage.
I've never seen you on stage, and here we are. We don't ever get together at home. You don't come to DC with the gym anymore with Leo because he's now over there. Yeah. I don't go to LA anymore. And I saw you in Portugal, in an office in Portugal, and you're like, all right, I'll go see you. We had dinner together. Yeah. And I remember I'm like, all right, we're getting ready for our company conference, and I'm thinking about something. And every time I talk to you, you tell me, I got this crazy idea. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to go travel and explore where the best voices are around the world. Yeah. I got this crazy idea. I'm going to go visit my parents. Hey, I'll go over to Lisbon and then go see Porto. I'm like, okay, cool. Yeah. So I hear this over and over that you say it.
I love the crazy idea.
I know, and I remember I was like, hey, you want to jump on a call? I got, and I was like, catch up real quick, and I'm like, hey, Per, I got this crazy idea.
Using my language.
I had to. I was like, I got this crazy idea. It's like, hey.
And then I perk up.
Yeah. I got this crazy idea. I got a staff of, a little over 100 people, global marketing company, helping small businesses, doing all of this thing, something that you've kind of checked that box. Digital marketing really, really well. Would you even consider how, I know it's kind of crazy, but we're going to be going over there, in a month. Like, would you consider kind of joining us and being on stage? And you're like, of course, why not? Like, that sounds fun.
Yeah.
That sounds interesting.
It does.
And I've never been to Dumaguete. I've never been there.
Right. And I was hanging out in Ho Chi Minh City, so I'm like, that's a piece of cake to get.
Vietnam, come
Why
here,
not?
there. So I was
Why
excited. So thank you for joining us. You keynoted our company marketing conference. The first time I have ever seen you on stage. You crushed it.
Really?
Yeah, you absolutely did. You want to do like your little opening that you do?
No.
Let me see the voice a little bit. Let me hear your range.
I want to hear.
No. Pressure is a gift. The audience would love to.
No, but it was so much fun. It really was fun.
You see how good he is at controlling the message?
What do you mean? What do you mean? You want me to sing?
I like how you got them all hyped up.
I was just getting people to let out their voice a little bit, get them going, and we just did some but I did it way louder.
Can we do it one time? We got the lake here, we got the mountains.
No.
One time.
Yeah!
There you go.
Oh, did you hear that echo?
Let me hear it again.
Yeah! Well, now we hear it.
That's pretty awesome.
We had traffic.
So I want to say
did
thank
I disappoint you with my speech, with my talk?
I think that it was frustrating to know you from a person, the character, the success that you have had, and to not realize that talent hadn't been on the thousands of other stages that I've seen other people around the world on for many, many years. Because you and I know so many friends that are the best at what they do. And they also produce some great businesses, and they have amazing events. And I've been to them.
But you had
I've never seen.
But it's interesting because you asked me to come. You obviously had some expectations.
Of course. I think that every time, you want to bring somebody in, you want them to do a good job. Like, the expectation is never to have somebody come in and not, crush it.
Of course.
But not seeing you on stage, it's a little different to be like, I've seen that person present.
You're saying I lived up to the expectation.
Not only you didn't live up to it, you far succeeded it. And I think that the biggest challenge that we have right now is are you okay being, a secret weapon and not being known for something that you do so well? And I know that it's not always in your interest, but we have a ton of people that we've been to events that finding good speakers is very difficult. You have so many different lessons, so you were able to do the keynote of our conference, right? With ballroom, looks nice, big screen behind you, got light and DJ, and it really, really was great. I mean, you got our entire staff up there singing and dancing. It was unbelievable. But then the next day we did some leadership training, and you're really diving into the actual practical work, right? And then it was so different for everybody that I think what they're gonna take away. A lot of times, presenters talk about a philosophy, but then people don't know how to apply that. Or a expert goes up there and teaches something, and then they develop the skill that they're talking about or the storyline, which is great. But the event, after you come home, what do? And I think the biggest difference that I've experienced this trip and again, our company, so I have a lot of pride in this, is that not only our company got better, everybody that was in the room at the event itself, but the work that you will have given them on themselves, not like homework, work for themselves will make the company better and them better, which will align kind of our visions as a company, which is being a career destination and helping small businesses. So, thank you for that. And it far exceeded our expectations. But what it really did is it made me a little frustrated as a digital marketing specialist, as someone who's, marketing really, really well. And we're around some of the biggest marketing geniuses in the world that I never knew that about you.
Really?
I knew that you're a great guy. I knew that you like to do crazy things. I knew that you have an amazing family. I think that I've had the opportunity to work with Leo, and he's a hardworking, fun, funny kid. And I knew all these things about you, but I didn't know that you actually know how to rock a stage and to then release, not control, but release people's fears of failure and actually take those feelings and apply that with their life. And I think our company got better because of you. So I want to tell you that publicly because I think the world needs to hear it. And if we don't be loud as a company and we're not loud with our skill, somebody's going to not know that that's possible. And when they hear from a doctor that your voice is done and just medicate, they'll quit. They won't share their message with the world, or they won't show up a certain way.
Wow.
And I just want to say thank you for that.
Wow. Thank you so much for that. I don't know what to say now. For people who are watching this, first of all, well, thank you for saying this. It's a great thing. I mean, I feel the same way if I work with clients, right? When I work with clients, is that I often see you are so much better than anyone knows, than you yourself know. So, and that applies to me also. I felt confident I was going to be able to provide something of value, right?
Did that.
But at the same time, I knew you had high expectations. You don't work with anyone.
I only like to work with the best in the world.
Yeah. So, therefore, that kind of expectation is kind of what, going back to what we talked about here in the beginning, right? Even from the violin playing, to be able to embrace high expectations, whatever fear comes with that, but how do we use that then to excel? So I'm glad I was able to not only talk about it, but actually do it.
Well,
And also, like you said then the day after, to be able to help people when we talked about presentation skills and I was actually coaching them, because that is my passion, to help someone bring out greater capacity so they realize what to do and how to practice and how to become better. And so I appreciate that you invited me in the first place, that you have crazy ideas. I love people with crazy ideas.
yeah, and I do have high expectations, and I have high standards, and we brought you into the SAIL program, which is an internal program called System for Advancing Internal Leaders.
Right.
It was actually developed by a really good friend of mine and mentor client. You build these relationships that he's a client, then turns into a mentor, then turns into somebody that you kind of work with, Joe Craver. And he developed the SAIL program, and we rolled it into our company to where we could have an opportunity and a platform for internal leaders to grow, and we have to invest in them because companies' growth is limited to the lid of the leaders. So if we have more leaders in the company will grow. So bringing you in to be able to invest into them was an opportunity for them to grow. And it starts with a crazy idea.
Yes.
And it starts with great people. So I just want to say thank you. I want to say thank you to Ari for bringing you into my life. And I want to say thank you to you for letting me be brought into Leo's life. And my lessons that I want to push towards through Thomas, you've done that with your two boys in so many different ways. And it's like, you've done it, and that's kind of like the real message is like, hey, if you do it to the things that matter to you and you have some purpose in the world, you will do a lot of good. So don't be shy, be loud, and do crazy things. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. This has been amazing. Thank you so much for saying what you're saying. You're amazing. You're amazing.